This is real life, and we all have our moments. It's hard. It's hard to be a human on this planet right now, and there are many people who are kind of burying their head in the sand and just going for the zombie thing because it's easier. And one thing that I will say that is my big message right now is the majority of the people on the planet want to live in a generous way. If you can become in any way an inspiration to another human being, that's a victory.
Hi there, welcome to Reality Riffing, and I'm very excited to have Olympia Auset on the show today. She is an amazing young millennial entrepreneur who is doing something that I think is the good work, the big work on the planet. She has something called Supermarket, which is a low-cost organic grocer that is servicing food deserts. And I want to kind of, first of all, talk about what a food desert is and how you kind of came to understand and really were inspired to do something about this kind of, in my opinion, warfare that is being enacted on inner cities and other places of certain socioeconomics on this planet.
Thank you. Thanks
Welcome.
for having me.
So glad you're here.
Yeah, so I can give you a background on just my story and what my journey has been. I started learning about this government when I was in high school. I had a really awesome history teacher, and that was the first time I understood what racism actually was, and not just the textbook definition that I've been given the entire time. We were reading things like A People's History of the United States. Yeah. We were watching Bastards of the Party, which is a really great film on like where gangs came from and the CIA and crack, etc. So I was getting all that at like 16 years old.
How wonderful.
Yeah, it's so ironic though because I was learning about it at a time when nobody knew what it was.
Right.
So I was pretty much the fire starter.
Yeah.
And then now everybody's like, institutional racism and privilege and blah, blah, blah. It's just like, oh my God, like everybody thought I was like nuts.
Yeah. Welcome to being a trailblazer.
And so I went to the school. I went to college at Howard University in DC. And
I'm a DC girl.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. And then so that's where I started to learn about the world. So first I was learning about just this country, and then I started to learn about the world and the pharmaceutical industry and the money industry and where does our food come from, et cetera, et cetera. So as I was learning all of these things, I became committed to sharing information and creating institutions that actually help change the world because it was a really awakening experience. I went vegan my freshman year, and but I also understood that it was scary because everything that I had been taught my entire life, I was unlearning. Yeah. And I just understood that when you're sharing information with people, you also have to give them solutions. You can't just say, everything is fucked up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you have to show them, okay, this is what you can do about it,
right, and
this is what we collectively can work towards. And so that's where I learned about urban agriculture. I found out there was a guy growing 3 million pounds of food a year in Milwaukee in the middle of blizzards.
Yep.
And I found out that food deserts and starvation didn't have to exist. So I came home with that mission of teaching people and building institutions. And in 2016, I was living in Inglewood. I've grown up all over Los Angeles, but at that time I was living in Inglewood. I was transitioning to raw vegan, which meant you eat mostly fruits and vegetables. Yeah. And I would be on the bus like 2 hours every time I needed to get food. There was nothing around. There was like a fish fry place around the corner, a liquor store, and there was just like no fresh food around. It wasn't walkable. It really sucked living there as a vegan.
Yes.
And I just, at the same time, I was teaching my friends about how to eat better and wanting them to be able to change their habits. And they're like, oh, well, it's too expensive. And so I was just in a position where I really was sick of being at the mercy of somebody else when it came to how I got my food. Yeah. So once I did get to that store, wherever I was taking the bus to, it's just like I didn't like the feeling of like looking at an apple and feeling like I couldn't afford it, or like, oh, if I want to do juices for a week or salads for a week, I didn't like the feeling of that being up to someone else. And I started working with a raw food manufacturer, so I would see the wholesale prices on some of the organic produce, And it was painful for me because it was like, okay, well, if someone will be willing to offer this closer to cost, then more people could eat this way. So that's just the background on how Supermarket got started. It was a few things meeting up, circumstances meeting up. And it's going on 2 years now. We'll be 2 years old in July.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And how's it going? How's it growing?
It's going well. At the interview that you psychically saw me having, the woman asked me if I envisioned it being at this level of growth at this time, and I had to think about it because no one had asked me that question.
Right.
But the answer is no.
Yeah.
I really just saw it being a way that my friends at least could eat better, and whoever wanted it, whoever. I didn't make a plan for what the vision was going to become or anything. So it's going really well. It's a hell of a learning process. It's taken a lot of dedication on the part of myself, and it's really just helping myself and all the core people who are involved with the project grow. And it's also rewarding,
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Are you a for-profit business or are you not for-profit?
So we're a hybrid. So the for-profit side provides the produce. It's kind of like this circle. We're waiting on our 501c3 status now. And so the nonprofit is geared towards programming and subsidizing the cost of the food and doing things like giveaways, sponsoring people's juice cleanses, education, just all the awesome stuff that we want to be able to do. And then the for-profit side sells the groceries, and any excess profits that are made go back into the nonprofit. So we just want to create sort of like a balanced left brain, right brain machine that can tackle food deserts.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I feel like this is really the Aquarian age is what I would call it, way in terms of commerce and the giving economy and knowing that when you're giving and you're giving, you're growing. That's basically, if you're giving, you're growing. And not the other way around. Like classically, I think it's been like, well, if I'm making enough money as a business or as a person or as a whatever, then I'll be a philanthropist. And it's like, it's the other way. It's like if you give more, you will grow more. That's the
life lesson.
Yeah, it is. What is so in terms of food deserts, educate. So if someone who is just listening and maybe it's the first time they've ever even heard food desert or is some of these kind of institutionalized, what I would call this is chemical warfare in some way when you're dealing with the amount of toxicity that food has that is being offered in and how that affects the neurology and the nervous system and the fight or flight and all the kind of like effects that has on a human being.
Yeah, you just touched on so many things. Like we could literally sit here all day.
We're gonna riff. We're about to riff.
Yeah. So just on the simple level, the first thing I would say about food deserts is the best way to understand what a food desert is to go to one. I would love to do some sort of reality series where like somebody who's never lived in a food desert lives in one for 2 weeks.
Yes.
And then that's the best way to just experience the frustration of like wanting an avocado or wanting like most people have access, or not most people, but a lot of people that we know have access to Trader Joe's. And if you need something cheap, you can get some dried mangoes or whatever, like
something.
Food.
Yeah.
So whatever your favorite Lara bar or whatever, just imagine being somewhere where you have to go out of your way. If you drive, imagine being somewhere where you're going to have to go drive 20 minutes both ways in order for you to get your Lara bar. That's a food desert. A food desert is a place where I think it's either a 1 or 2 mile radius as defined by the USDA, where there's not a source of fresh food around. So a food desert is somewhere where in place of fast casual restaurants and just nicer establishments and grocery stores, you have liquor stores and fast food places. Yeah. So your options are going to be Jack in the Box and Taco Bell and Rallies, etc. And so living in a place like this is your food. This is what you eat on a daily basis. This is what is around you. This is what you grow up on. You're not being exposed to ideas about food, and you just don't know what's out there as far as food. But the way that this plays out and how this becomes real is by the time you're my age, you're starting to see your family members die. So at the time when I was living in Inglewood, some of the catalyst for me was that, 2 people who I really cared about passed away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? From cancer.
Yeah.
And the other catalyst I was sharing with you before we began about wanting to actually feed people, you know, one of my longest friends, my longtime friends, her mom passed away from a stroke, and it really made me really upset because the numbers and the disparities as it relates to preventable disease in this country are astronomical. African Americans lead every other ethnic group in deaths from diabetes, cancer, heart disease, stroke, pretty much you name it. All the preventable stuff we're dying from, and it's a bigger genocide than the things that we're used to looking at, which is like police brutality or maybe education, prison pipeline, etc. And it's an easy way to kill people and get away with it, and nobody ever brings it to your attention. So a food desert is a place where it's hard to get fresh food, and the outcomes from it being hard to get fresh food are you can limit people's life expectancies, you can manipulate the mental capacity of people, the educational capacity of people, the developmental capacity of people from the cradle to the grave for the most part. And this is something that I think all of us are experiencing in America as far as like genetic modification and manipulation. But it really becomes very clear when you're in a food desert how much people are being limited in their capacity to be thinking, thriving people just by cutting them off from real and fresh food. And then as far as what you were saying about, I think you mentioned, you were just talking about chemical warfare. So there's studies out there that kind of show what happens. I think I need to get the exact stat, but there's a certain percentage of arrests that happen. And at the time that the person committed the violent crime, their blood sugar was low. And so when you're in a situation where you're living on Cheetos and things of that sort, you're not really being human. You're in a state of starvation.
You're eating a non-food.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So you're going to do all kinds of crazy things, and you're not going to be able to function properly.
That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have not heard that one, and that right there is exactly what because when you're talking about what I would call the internalized patriarchy or any internalized control structure, it's so much easier to have people who are, we're talking about consuming actually internally, but also the emotional consumption, the metaphysical, the spiritual, the consumption of the control kind of culture is seen very much in this kind of food. This is the external example of how much we've internalized all aspects of the control culture, and I think it's really interesting when you get empirical evidence of that kind of thing where people's blood sugar's low, people's it's obviously been proven that if I was just reading something from Yogi Bhajan where he says that green vegetables, that's really what the synapses and the neuron, that's what they fire on. And so if you want to be more productive, if you want to have a more focused mind, if you want to eat more green vegetables. He even said, like, I'm not saying, become a vegetarian or a vegan, but if you eat more green vegetables, you're going to notice a difference in the clarity and the function of your mind.
Of your skin, everything. I just did I just came off of the juice cleanse. And it's not the first one that I've done, but it really hit home for me this last time that this is what you need to, this is what you need. This is what you need to run on. And it literally is something that you experience once you try it. Once you are giving your cells what they actually need to function, you're like, oh, this is how life is supposed to be. Like, oh, I don't have to be sluggish and I don't have to have a headache. And I can actually, even as a raw vegan, it's like I'm not eating 4 bunches a day of spinach. And so if I'm juicing it, then I'm getting what I need. Or hydration is another really big thing, There's so many things that are just normal that we've gotten away from with the culture that we have around food in this society.
Yeah, no, it's very true because, again, another yogic thing where if you're in a bad mood or you're irritable or you're, getting hot-headed or you're getting reactive, if you drink a glass of water or some other hydrating liquid and just take a deep breath, that alone can totally change the way you make decisions and the way it can totally change your mood. Just some hydration. And most people don't realize that they're just really, 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 really dehydrated.
Yeah.
I just read something yesterday. It just came out yesterday, which we've known this, but I mean, they've now proven in science. They found a new organ, and that organ is the interstitial. Is that how you say it? Interstitial, kind of under the skin, is basically the interstitial organ, which is the like fluid.
Oh.
And, almost, I mean, people are chronically dehydrated.
No, very much so.
And when you're dehydrated, you are mentally imbalanced.
Yeah, your cells are like little beings, and they're just like, I don't feel good right now. Like, can we do something about this? So you can't. It's funny how in general we expect to be able to function without all of the pieces needed to function. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so, just turning back towards the business aspect of it, because I was talking about this last night, we just did like a business panel last night. So, what was that moment where you knew that you wanted to make a difference, you wanted to make a change? What kind of, where, because it's always that precipice moment between the people who think about it and wish and maybe even, do something on a small level just for their friends, and then actually like opening a business. And what was that for you? Like, what pushed you?
Yeah, so before Supermarket started, I had been getting together with two of my friends on a regular basis. We had this really big conversation because like an advertisement came on TV, and I was like, I hate ads. And then we got to this like huge debate for like 2 or 3 hours or something. And at the end of it, it was like, okay, well, what are we going to do about the world? And it's like, okay, well, one thing we can do is just start meeting every Tuesday to like work on it. And so we would meet, we would have an organic vegan meal, and we would work on projects and watch documentaries and things like that. And at one of these, at some point, I don't remember exactly what happened, but my friend Kyle mentioned something about wanting to have like a store or us selling food or something like that. And I was like, oh my God, like I think about this all the time. Because I have like at that time, I was wanting to create institutions, so I've had all kind of dreams of like, let's set up somewhere and just give out juices all day, or you know what I mean? Right. And so when he mentioned it, I said, oh my God, like, yeah, let's do it, And so we were at the time planning our first large group dinner where more of our friends, because we had a couple of friends over, but we wanted to do one where it's like for everybody, where we have discussions. And a friend of ours was, the mother of a friend of ours was sponsoring it and hosting us our first dinner. So she gave us like $400 or something like to do the dinner, and 100 of that went towards the first supermarket inside her house, where we introduced it to our friends who were attending the dinner. So I would say that was sort of the genesis moment of Supermarket. And that was probably the second such genesis moment I've experienced, where it's like going from thinking about something to actually doing it. Yeah.
And now you're just working 7 days a week, 18 hours a day.
I'm working on that because I'm realizing that like you cannot do this. Like this is not going to work. You're going to have to figure out no. You know what I mean? Like I don't really get sick, but I got sick maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago or something like that. I got really sick and I was in bed for like 2 days, and I was exhausted. My friends had just been in town, and I was just like in bed, and it was just clear, like, you have to take care of yourself. It's not an option. You know what I mean? It's not something you can pick and choose when to do. You have to take care of yourself, and you have to delegate. You have to create systems by which all this stuff can get done, because you can't do all of this stuff. And you can't do any of the other stuff you want to do if you're doing this stuff. So ever since myself had that conversation.
Me and me.
Things have been
those are the most important conversations.
Yeah, things have been a lot better since then. But yeah, it is a lot of work.
Yeah, it's so much work. That's what we were talking about last night is what Yogi Bhajan calls it, the managerial mind. And then the one step above that is the executive mind. And then if you really want to be successful, you have to make those cognitive leaps. And not just cognitive, but the whole body-mind system has to organize around those leaps. And that's, again, you come back to there's a blood chemistry balance that has to happen, a brain chemistry balance that has to happen in order to not... The leaps can be made because a lot of imbalanced people have done great things in the world. So the leaps can be made, and there's charismatic people and there's people who are burning at both ends and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm not saying that isn't, but in order to sustain,
right,
and really have a lifelong kind of legacy, which is the reason.
And be happy while you do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a leap of, okay, now I was in the worker's mind, now I have to leap to the manager's mind. And then, from the manager's mind, then I have to leap to the executive mind, which might be where
That's so true. That's literally so true. And I feel that food is related to vibration. And so, whenever I have conversations with people just about like what they're eating, the things that I've noticed with myself is that every time it was time for me to change the way that I was eating, it had to do with my vibration. It was like I was leaving the vibration of like potato chips, you know what I mean? And it was just like I would still be trying to eat potato chips and it'd be like, no, you're not there. Your body's like, no, I can't do that anymore. And so I definitely agree that in order to be able to do a lot and just operate at the level that it get bigger, you know what I mean? You need a different fuel system. So you need to be able to burn clean and you need lots of energy. And that happens when you're like doing things like eating lots of vegetables and drinking lots of juice. You have the mental space and capacity. There's no like dead weight kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all attest to the moment of I need to get out of the potato chip consciousness, but I just can't get out of potato chip consciousness right now, but I know I need to. We've all had those moments.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows about potato chips.
And you may still be in the potato chip, and that's fine.
It's all good.
There's some actually really good potato chips out there these days. Coconut, oil potato chips. We get them, some of my friends get those things by the cases. I'm like, you guys have like a case of coconut oil potato chips.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
impressive.
It's a commitment. It's a commitment. So in terms of a supermarket, to explain basically how it works, so we get a sense of it.
Yeah, so we pop up. We pop up every Sunday, and usually in places that are food deserts where it's hard to get food. And we sell organic vegetables. We sell fruits and vegetables. We sell nuts, dates, coconut oil, just the staples of a healthy life. And our mission is to just make it affordable. So we sell it kind of under me having been a shopper, and I paid like $15 for some strawberries at Erewhon a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like,
I hope nobody saw me. Hey, you look both ways. I hope nobody saw me.
I was looking around like, who else is buying? Because I didn't find out till I got to the register.
Oh, everybody in there is buying those $15 strawberries.
And so, so I know like what I feel like food should cost, and I know what's easy to do on like a food stamp budget. Yeah. And so we just try to make it accessible using that metric. That's like our metric that we use, and we also have
and you guys actually take food stamps as well.
Yeah, we take EBT,
which is amazing.
And so that's how we design our subscription packages, which cost $100 a month. And so if somebody has food stamps, they're probably getting like $194 a month if they're a single person. So we wanted it to be like, okay, you can spend half of your food budget and have continuously fresh food in your fridge, and then you can use the rest on like beans and rice and lentils or whatever else you're going to get packaged stuff. But we just wanted to make some way for people to be able to eat well no matter what their budget was.
So amazing. And so you have memberships, and then also people can just come and shop.
Exactly, people can do both.
And you also have a delivery service.
We deliver to the main LA area.
That's
so like West LA, Hollywood, South LA, East LA, LA.
And in that you get like a box.
Yeah, you get a box. And the point of it is to, everybody's at different places as far as like how much fruits and veggies they eat, but usually in your box there's going to be bananas, there's going to be maybe a pineapple, there's going to be some sort of a green, and you know, maybe some avocado. So it's kind of just designed to make it so that you have, you know, something, you know, fresh to eat and to integrate into your life. And it's also based on what my college days were like and what I would get when I went to Trader Joe's. And I would just get like stuff for a salad. Like you have stuff for salads and you have stuff for smoothies. And it just makes it so it's easy to do that.
That's so cool. And do you guys do recipes and stuff, or like new training on that?
We have a couple of recipes online, and we've done like maybe like 4 workshops, or we've done a few workshops, but that is our next big focus is to like create content that's really helpful in like introducing people to how to eat well. And I want people to have the basics down. You know, like somebody showed me how to make a salad and it was like, okay, I got this. Yes. This is how I make a salad. If I want to do anything special, I can do that, but these are the basics. If I have these 5 things, I can make a salad for myself. If I have these things, this is how I can make a smoothie. You know, so I want people to know how to use sort of like the holy grail of fruits and vegetables. And I want them to know how to make things that maybe they're paying too much for. So I want them to know how to make their own almond milk and make their own hummus and make their own staples so that they can just feed themselves. And if they want to go out to eat, they can. Or if they want to buy these things prepackaged, they can, but they know how to take care of themselves as it relates to food.
Beautiful. Well, you know, we have a whole production studio, so if we could help you make those videos.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah, that's easy for us.
What?
And we have the whole thing, so let's make some videos.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
I mean, that's very important. And also I think, like, I just think that it's good for everyone, because I say this to some of my team, I consciously don't go to Air One for what you just spoke of. Like I allow myself like once a week because I can. I have that privilege to be able to go there once a week, but I consciously don't go there because I don't want to participate in that, you know. And so I think for all of us, no matter what the socioeconomics are or no matter what the background is, I'm into being resourceful. I think it's like being a resourceful person is being, in my opinion, a successful person, because
no, seriously,
you're using your resources, and when you use your resources, you always have more than you think you have. And
I do think that the discipline of knowing how to use your resources is how you show the universe that you're ready for more.
100%.
And also, as it relates to making food, I've just been reflecting on what I want my own food practices to be, because if you think about it, when you're out at the store and you grab something, the mind that made that food has made it based on whatever their principles are.
Right.
So it's usually going to be like their goal is fat, sugar, salt, because they want something that people are going to want and that they're going to want more of. But when I make my food at home, I can make it because I love myself. You know, like based on whatever I need, I can make it. And you can make enough for you to have what you need whenever you need it. And the act of being involved, this busyness that we're in, where people don't even have time to like have a meal with each other or be in touch and touch the food that they're putting into their bodies, doesn't serve us. And it's not really good for us. And I think that making time for yourself, drawing that line and saying, you know what, no, I'm going to make food for myself. I'm going to do that. Is really important, and it's really empowering, and it's aligned with what we were talking about earlier as far as like the levels, and it puts you, it's a part of the lifestyle design and the shift that happens, because if you're saying to yourself, I'm too busy to make my own food, then you're saying to yourself that I am like under the something else is running my life.
The work-slave society.
And when you decide, no, I'm not doing that, that's like one step towards liberation.
It's sovereignty. Absolutely. And I think also it changes your whole relationship with what life is, like anything that you're relating to that is of an act of living, which is sitting down and eating a meal with yourself or with friends, or cooking or preparing something, or even picking food, or having that's all living. It's an act of living rather than an act of death, which is like I'm just shoving food in my mouth. Like I was saying the other day, I don't even know. I was a little. We had teacher training, and I was little, and I was driving and eating. I always know if I'm driving and eating my dinner, something has gone awry. You know what I mean? That's and so I caught myself. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not even that hungry. I'm just the busyness and the and so it is. You can really kind of see, and I'll tell you. I mean, we spend some time in Europe because I have a studio in Europe, and I mean, it's like sacrilege to not sit down for 3 hours for dinner. You can't get out of it. If you sit down for dinner, then you ask for the check. You're we're busy Americans, and they know. They now in the neighborhood kind of know. It's like the gringas that are always busy. We're like, okay, can we get our check? It takes 45 minutes to get the check.
You might as well just get the check. You might as well just right when you sit down.
Yeah, I mean, it's because they just aren't that. It's just that culture. It's just different. So it really is. I think it's pretty unique to the American compulsive overwhelm status symbol of being overwhelmed and busy and all that kind of what we've created as status in our culture.
And a lot of it's an illusion. It's a firm. I have these things ingrained in myself about anxiety and I don't know, just busyness is ingrained in me since I was really young. And it takes unlearning to understand that it's an illusion. Whatever you're scared of, that's going to happen if you take this extra 15 minutes or whatever. It's not true.
Yeah.
It's really not true. And it takes time to just move yourself out of that energetic grid that you locked yourself into.
It does. It does. And at the same time, it doesn't really take that much time. I mean, it's it really is. That's where you get again into this kind of internalized cultural control grid, because it doesn't take them. It takes one breath. It takes one. It takes a couple bites of a green vegetable for the body to start to alkalize. It takes. I mean, it really doesn't take that much, and so, which is what's so great about what you're doing, because just even a little bit is going to go a long way, as we know. So talk about also this thing that you guys are kind of just launching, which is this 1-for-1 program, because I'm very interested in this, and I think a lot of people out there would love to participate in this in some way.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of things that are happening in our world that you look at it and you say, what am I supposed to do about it? Or it's just okay, well, what do I do about that? I don't know. They don't have no grocery stores over there? Well, damn, sorry. Yeah. I can't go build a grocery store.
Right.
And so the 1-for-1 program allows a person to get groceries for themselves and to have groceries given to someone else. And so what it does is it makes it so that even if you're in a position where you have everything you need, you can make it so that somebody else can have what they need somewhere, which helps us all, because honestly, we spend $1 billion a day. We spend $360 billion a year in the U.S. on preventable healthcare.
Yeah.
So it is costing you, whether you realize it or not. And it really doesn't have to cost very much at all. There's a really awesome documentary called Simply Raw, Reversing Diabetes in 30 Days. And it's 7 people who eat raw for 30 days at this place in Arizona, and 5 of them get rid of their diabetes entirely. Right. So that's upsetting, because of if you go into the communities that we serve and you say, hey, who knows somebody who has diabetes or heart disease? Yeah. Everybody's raising their hand.
Right.
And none of those people have to suffer that way. Yeah. But and the other thing that we want to do is create community. We know that just because you live in a place where there's a grocery store doesn't mean that you know what to do with all the fruits and vegetables, because we definitely have gotten away from using fruits and vegetables in this country. And so if both parties agree, you can communicate with the person you're sponsoring, and you can say, here's what was in my box this week, and this is what I made with this, and kind of just go back and forth and share. So we're excited to see that really take off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just an awesome way. Our packages start at $100 per month. And so for $200 per month, which is probably what somebody who's health conscious is already spending on groceries or more, you can also feed someone else.
That's amazing. I'm so proud of you guys.
Thank you.
Good work.
Thank you.
And talk about, I mean, I think a lot of our listeners are people who are in your age range and are thinking of starting a business or dreaming of changing the world in some way, because that's really what your generation is, come to this planet to be, a help to see if we can not, do ourselves in, which will, it remains to be seen. But I think we have some, there's the future is bright. So give some advice to other young entrepreneurs of, what you would have wanted someone to say to you, or what would you say to someone who's like, I want to change, I want to do something, I want to create something, and I don't have the resources, or I'm scared, or I'm, whatever.
Okay, so one thing that I can attest to, action is like 70%. Action is 70%, and like the universe, God, sponsor, like everybody knows. I had a moment where I realized that people understand, because we're starting the nonprofit and there's so many things that I'm scared of, especially being sort of an overachiever.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel comfortable for me to not be good at something immediately.
Yes. And
so understand that action is 70%. Just starting something and doing something and allowing yourself to learn is 70% of the process.
Yeah.
And so we literally, like, all the growth and the success we've had is astounding, because I wish I could show you a picture. I'll send you a picture of the first supermarket, and it's us. We didn't even have a table. I told you we started with like $100.
Right.
$100. And we didn't even have a table. We had to borrow a table.
There's
like food everywhere on the table. We have these like makeshift bootleg signs. And it's just like, I cannot believe that we've been able to do everything that we've been able to do starting from there.
Yeah.
And
it's only been 2 years.
Like, not even. Yeah. And just like believing in yourself. If you're doing something that is positive, you're going to have support. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're going to have support in that. It definitely was difficult at the beginning, because it's like, okay, do I give up? Like, does anybody even care if I do this? And so that first grant that we got was like really reassuring and, affirming for us. So just like not giving up is another 10%. But literally just starting to do the iterations. Like, people who start things, the reason they get where they get, and don't look at the final result. Like, I want to have a blah, blah, blah. Because they didn't start with that most of the time. They just started with what they had, and they slowly built up, and they kept learning. The other thing that I think is important is being genuine and being informed. Yeah. So I was already living the lifestyle that I wanted other people to live before I started this, and I was already kind of steeped in a deep understanding of the food system, et cetera, et cetera. So it's important to have that, and you have to be able to respect whatever craft it is you're performing, and just know about it. Gumption is really helpful. Just like
Gumption, all 100% Gumption. I'm all about the Gumption. Yeah, you have to have the nerve.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. And like sometimes people ask me how I've done different things, and it's just like I've always felt like I could do the things that I wanted to do. Not for everything. Like, I definitely have insecurities, and there's definitely things I'm uncertain about. Yeah. But I'm always that person where people are like, "How did you do that?" Because it's something you weren't supposed to be able to do. Right. You know what I mean? And so just don't believe the rules. Yeah. Don't believe the rules. And what other advice could I give? Those are all pretty good. Those are good starting points.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. They are, because I was talking about this last night. It's like the only difference between you and somebody else who noticed the same problem is that you executed. And the reasons that you executed are what you just stated. Those are all reasons. And
the other thing that I could offer is like direct solutions. I think, like you said, or what we were talking about earlier about the age that we're in and what business is. There's so many business people out there that just need like a social lean. So I think that I am somebody who is kind of business minded. I'm not an MBA or anything like that, but I have that kind of a mind of trying to do things and implement things. Yeah. But I also have like a social education. Yes. And so this was a direct solution. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to go do a study on like what food deserts are, even though that's important. It is. There's like a lot of sort of like wheel turning that happens around issues like this. And so like creating a direct solution and like needing something to work like a machine in the interest of people and benefiting people, but needing something like be an entrepreneur, you know what I mean? Or apply whatever skills you have, but towards something that's going to help people. And honestly, if you are thinking about doing something that's going to help people, please do it. Like, please.
People need help.
No, like, seriously, like, please do it. Yeah. Don't feel like the resources are not there. The resources are there. We are the resources. Yeah. People are the resources. And literally, the world needs you. Your grandchildren need you. Other people's grandchildren need you. Like, this is something that's needed. And you're going to feel your best if you go for your calling. You're going to feel your best if you're fulfilling your purpose. Yeah. Like whoever you were, all you indigo children, like whoever you were when you were 2 years old, listen to that person or it's not going to end well. Like listen to that person. Seriously. There's nothing, you're not going to regret it. You don't have nothing to lose. Like we don't have anything to lose by doing what we're here to do. So
yeah, no, that is very true. And even the things that you think that you have to lose, you may not need them to begin with. So.
And the more of us there are going for it, the more the strength we'll have.
Yeah,
Never
the collective.
We're not minorities. You know what I mean? On this planet, we are this planet, and
we are the majority.
We just need everybody to turn their light on, and it'll get easier the more people turn their light on. So.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. That's very important. And if for people who want to educate them more on themselves more on these subjects, what's your like, go-to documentary book list? So
the 5 films that I read. Oh, I'm not going to limit myself to 5. I like I like Forks Over Knives. I like food. Forks Over Knives shows the China study and shows how with the consumption of animal products you can turn cancer on and off. So that's really good. Food Inc. shows our food system, how it affects farmers, etc. A lot of people have seen What the Health. So What the Health is kind of like the more dramatic version of Forks Over Knives with like less data in there. But it's really impactful because it gets to your heart. Yeah. And so when I saw it, the things that struck me were just like what people who live near pig farms are going through. And, related to social justice, a lot of people will, protest and they're really upset about things that are happening. But if you go eat a piece of bacon after that, like somebody is literally getting cancer and dying because they're spraying pig feces on their house on a regular basis. So we have to care about we have to care 360. Yeah,
care 360.
Show me.
An inside joke.
So What the Hell, Forks Over Knives, Food Inc., and Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead is really awesome. I like Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead because it's not as heavy. We need those heavy moments where we're learning about stuff and we're like, oh my God. But Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead is just really inspirational. You just watch it and you're just like, man, he really changed his life. Like
he did.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And your heart will feel warm and you'll be inspired and you'll be amped to go do something about it. And also, I mentioned Simply Raw, Reversing Diabetes in 30 Days. Please watch it and share with anyone you know, especially people who have diabetes, because they literally don't have to be taking shots all the time. They don't have to do that. Yeah. And I think 2 other bonus documentaries that I'll mention are Thrive. Thrive is a great documentary that gives kind of like an overview of our world system in general. It talks about like banking and it ties a lot of different things together as it relates to what's happening on our planet.
Which is important to get that full picture.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's really awesome to watch. And then I also, it's not related or it's seemingly unrelated, but Bastards of the Party is a must-see film. And it really helped change my life.
I can't wait. I haven't seen it, but I love the premise. That's right up in my alley. Right up my alley.
And then on our website, suprmarkt.la, if you go suprmarkt.la/learnfood, links to the documentaries and all that stuff is there for everybody to check out.
Okay, good. And we'll make sure we link it too. And people can find you at, what's your Instagram handle?
supr.mrkt.
Okay, great. And is there any coming up events people should know about? Anything you want to put out there? Or you guys are most Sundays
in Leimert Park. You can go on our website and it'll be right there where we're going to be. Our Instagram shows where we're going to be, and there's a next supermarket page that has the address and all other details. We have a cool event coming up at Cal State Fullerton. I'm thinking it's next Saturday. Mm-hmm. So Bryant Terry is going to be there. Gray, the Thanksgiving vegan rap guy, is going to be there. We're going to do an interactive exercise called How Much a Dollar Costs. And it's basically just like how you can make your dollar stretch no matter what kind of budget you have, and just educating the students about how to kind of beat the food injustice system. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to have Superversary coming up in a few months, our 2-year anniversary. So make sure you get tickets to that when that happens.
Awesome. Where's that going to be?
We're still deciding. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you guys have suggestions, we're awesome.
I have a suggestion.
Ooh.
We're trying to. We look forward to collaborating with you.
Yeah, we're going to be. You're going to. This is going to happen.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for the work that you're doing, and thank you for just blazing a trail, because this is, I think, when we're in it and we're, there's sweat on the brow, and we've been at it for days and months and years. It's easy to forget that this is major, and a lot of lives are being affected by your work and your grace and your intelligence. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.